Many months ago, I subjected myself to the live-action Avatar: The Last Airbender, and I gotta say, I really love what they did here. In the original cartoon, they had 4 elements: airbending, waterbending, firebending, and the boulder. But in the live action, they actually introduced a 5th element called plot bending, where essentially the writers came in and took an already amazing story and turned it into something. It's like the writers took the original script, painted it on their forehead, railed a line of code, smashed their head face first into a piece of paper, let the paint dry, hired a professional blind person to read that script in Braille, and then make that interpretation the script for the live action. But at least the graphics are cool. So if you haven't seen the live action Avatar yet, don't worry. You're not missing out on much. I will explain everything to you in the next few minutes. Let's start with the writing. The first thing that I noticed is that they took away a lot of the fun plot points in the show, like penguin sledding, the booby trap ship, Aang fighting Zuko to escape the ship, so basically the entire first episode is just ice, water, talking, exposition, talking, exposition, talking, exposition. Aang escapes, yay. They then go ahead and combine Jet, the secret tunnel, Boomy, and the air temple all into one episode. All at once. Each of these plot points originally had their own episodes in locations all over the world. Now they all take place in Omashu. Very quickly. Shut up! I am not done talking. They somehow condensed all of this into one episode, but still are leaving out plot points like Aang attempting firebending, or the Earthbender prison with reoccurring characters, or the fortune teller, or the canyon. Even though they're not vital episodes in the cartoon, they still lean into the development of all of the characters and show that the characters are human. Whereas in the live action, the characters don't develop. It's strictly business and exposition about the business. Also, the secret tunnel is in season 2 of the cartoon. Ah, here it is. Season 1. Also in the cartoon, Azula makes a dramatic entrance in season 2. Ah, here she is. Episode 3 of season 1. Also in the cartoon, the main antagonist of the whole show appears in season 3 after 40 episodes of development. Oh, here he is. Episode 2 of season 1. Also, Mei and Ty Lee. You know what else is in season 2? Mama! There's no build-up at all. It's like if a grandparent, who loves you very much by the way, walks up, gives you a hug, and then pops 3 .45 caliber rounds in your spleen. The only thing you can do is look up and be like, why? Why are you doing this to me? The thought of your grandparents shooting you probably wiped a smile off your face. And that's exactly how every character looks for a majority of their screen time. Because of how condensed the show is, it's strictly business, which essentially just strips the characters of their original emotions intended in the show and kind of replaces it with like a neutral energy. Which is funny because Boomy gets really angry with Aang because he needs to stop goofing off when the plot has been nothing but serious the entire time. Even Sokka looks like he needs an antidepressant. But at least the graphics are cool. I genuinely found it hard feeling for any of these characters when nothing has been developed over the 7-hour runtime of this show. Especially when the original show had just under 8 hours of runtime and fit everything in perfectly fine. Maybe if they didn't try and fit the entirety of season 2 into season 1, cough cough, but at least the graphics are cool. Fun fact, did you know that the original creators left the show due to creative differences? That's how you know you're doing something right. If I had to guess why though, it would probably be due to the fact that it wasn't loyal to the original. This is Aang flying without his staff in the live action. This is Aang flying without his staff in the original. They got rid of the Unagi, which would have been one of the coolest things to see in the live action, but it's okay because Kyoshi comes to life through Aang, and also Commander Zhao's on the island for some reason. Iroh and Aang talk in episode 1 when they originally don't talk until season 2, dropping all impact that them meeting could have had. Aang notices Boomy right away, and Boomy is now a bitter old man with the likability of a pot of hot dog water, whereas in the cartoon it took Aang a long time to recognize Boomy, and he was a fun, mysterious, threatening character turned absolute Chad. Why are Sokka and Katara in the spirit world with Aang? Why is the spirit world in the swamp from season 2? Why are the owl and Ko also here? Why is Yue the fox now? Oh, it's because the swamp hasn't happened yet in the original story, and they gotta find a way to make Sokka somehow attached to something in the swamp spirit world that he's not even supposed to be in, because he's supposed to fight Yue in the swamp. What I'm yelling about doesn't even make sense, because it just doesn't make sense. How did June get Nyla on this island to capture Aang? This is an island. Look at it. Instead of Iroh hitting on June in the original, June hits on Iroh, and I don't know about you, but if a goth baddie hit me up when I was this age, I'd have a heart attack. That'd be the end of my story. But at least the graphics are cool. Yue was never shown waterbending in the original, but here you can see her dessert bending. My garden hose has more power than some of the waterbending in this show. Iroh tells Zuko that his firebending was perfect in episode 1. But in the original, Zuko gets laid into about how it is not ready and he hasn't even gotten his basics down. Once again, no development or growth. Everybody is perfect. They completely stripped Zhao's character down naked. In a metaphorical sense. They rebuilt him from the grounds up to be a calm, collected, but greedy character, instead of an intimidating, observant, ruthless villain, which was played very well in the original. Zuko and Zhao work together in the live action instead of having tension just for the outcome to be the same. They also changed the reason why Zhao wanted to kill the moon spirit to something incredibly complex, and that's where plot bending comes into play for the 48th time. It was all very hard to follow, but you know what is easy to follow? The leader. I do want to say though, there are redeeming qualities to this show. The graphics are phenomenal, but at least the graphics are cool. There's more, I promise. The blue spirit breaking Aang out of prison was actually faithful to the original, and it was really cool to watch. Everything down to the fight choreography, to the scenes, it was faithful, unlike the rest of the show, but that's okay. The Agni Kai and a large portion of the fight scenes in the show were actually done very well. It was really cool to watch. So the CGI and the VFX were done very well. This bear hat is absolute gas. I need one for myself if anybody could find one. The color grading on the final episode was really pretty with all of the ice and the fire. Just the red and blue over the entire gray screen after the moon spirit got killed was actually chef's kiss. There was also some very satisfying Easter eggs, such as the cabbage guy, who I believe was actually played by the guy who voices the cabbage guy in the original show. The Flopsy statues and Aang riding his airball into the statue. They were just small but nice touches. It felt consensual. Even though I'm not a fan of the writing, all of the creatures in the swamp and the spirit world were so cool to watch, especially Ko, Heibai, the owl, and especially the animals outside of the spirit world like Appa and Momo. Seeing all of these animals come to life in the live action just either seemed wholesome or incredibly cool. There were occasionally, once in a blue moon, no pun intended, a couple of times where I actually felt that the writing changes worked. One of them being Aang doesn't go into the Avatar state until he finds out about Gyatso's death. I found it more impactful to find out his true power when he realizes something devastating compared to just a simple fight with Zuko in the beginning, which didn't happen, by the way. Also, Zhao and Iroh riding a hot air balloon up to the top of the North Pole, which explains how they got there. Not that it needed to be explained at all, because nobody was asking, but I guess it was a nice touch. This man's beard is gas. We're not even gonna go past that. Let's start writing fanfics about this guy. Let's start a whole Reddit. We were also given insight into Ozai and Zuko's past, which, even though it wasn't 100% accurate to the original story, it was still cool to have that insight. It made it more understandable why Zuko was the way that he was earlier in the show, which, now that I'm saying this out loud, I don't actually like. But I do think it's cool that they give insight on how the 41st Division was Zuko's crew. But then everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked, and the show tries to be woke. This show got slammed for taking away Sokka's sexist character arc. In the original series, Sokka had an ego and got pummeled by every single woman he came into contact with. And because of that, he learned to respect women. Character development. Ta-da! Now there's no arc at all, and the audience can't even learn from Sokka's mistakes, because he's now such a good, unsexist man. Now, Sokka and Suki, because of this, have this weird, quiet relationship, where Suki stares Sokka down like this from a distance, and they're both like, So they essentially went from Sokka is sexist to Sokka wants to have sex. Which is funny, because they removed this sexism arc from Sokka just to keep Grandpa Paku just as sexist. He still doesn't want to teach Katara because she's a woman. After Katara proves that he's being sexist, she convinces him that all of the women should be able to fight in the war that's happening right now. And not a single one of them know how to fight because they were never trained. Because Paco was sexist. These women will die in combat. But at least the graphics are cool. Also on this topic, in the Secret Tunnel episode, Oma and Shu were two lovers, man and woman, that were separated by opposing tribes and couldn't be together because of it. So they made the secret tunnels to see each other so nobody could follow them. The live action follows the exact same narrative, except now it's two women. Why? Why? I'm not homophobic. There was just nothing wrong with the narrative. The writers went, "Hi, I'm Judy. Look at all the positive changes we're making here." That's a reference you'd only be able to understand if you watched the original show. Which brings us to the dialogue. Boomy uses the infamous lettuce leaf joke so incorrectly that it doesn't even make sense unless you've watched the cartoon. So if you haven't watched the cartoon, the joke just doesn't land, because it's terrible. Here we can see Paku telling Aang that he should have learned waterbending before coming to the North Pole, when that is literally the reason that him and Katara went to the North Pole. Most of the conversations that the characters are having throughout the show are just talking to each other about what they are doing or what they should be doing. Just spewing non-stop exposition, which once again makes it really hard to feel for any of the characters. It doesn't feel human. The script is so robotic that it grinds my gears. You see what I did there? Laugh, motherfucker. Cities are like people. They all have their dark sides, says Iroh. Iroh. Uncle Iroh would never say that. It sounds like what Zuko would say, imitating Iroh. I heard the most beloved, wise old man in cartoon history say he's attacking the fortress head on, like a bull in heat, which is a really funny line, but this is not the character to deliver it. So unless you are able to completely put all bias aside or haven't seen the cartoon, I genuinely think you're going to have a hard time loving this show. The storyline changes too much, it's too inconsistent, the writing is sloppy. However, I will contradict myself and say that there are still some upsides to this show. So was it actually good? No. But was it terrible? Yes. No. I was able to manage sitting through 7 hours of it. I just don't know if I can do another 7 hours. Well, at least the graphics are cool.